of you risk takers or truth seekers to podcast live the battlefield. Today it's not about me. Today it's about our great friend and guest and client Matt Koopmans, the founder, and he's a major director of the company Aurelian Group. And today it's quite wet today, Matty, right?
It is. It reminds me of my country of birth.
So
Yes.
tell us more. Where's your original? What's your country where you coming from?
Okay, so born and raised in the Netherlands in a small town called The Hague. Now I say small town, it's I think the third largest city in the country.
Okay.
Because in the Netherlands everything is small, right? It's like even Amsterdam. People, Amsterdam. How many people live in Amsterdam? Well, if you take Metro Amsterdam, it's about 1 million. If you take off the Metro, like all the other surrounding cities, it's just a couple of 100,000, right? It's not
really.
Big. It's actually quite small.
But they have a lot of channels because Amsterdam is being portrayed as a most desirable place to live in the world. Is that true? Or?
They've probably never been there.
Okay.
We used to joke that in the Netherlands the summer is on a Tuesday, usually between 12 and 2. If you miss it, then it's gone, right? You have to wait for another year. Unless it's a leap year, it may not be there, right?
Yeah.
The 1/3 of the country is water. 1/3 of the country is agriculture. And 1/3 of the country is where we put 2/3 of the people. Now you go like, okay, how big is the Netherlands? Well, it's about. So if you look at Australia, Netherlands would fit into the area between Wollongong and Newcastle, and then the east coast and the Blue Mountains.
Jeez,
it's very small, right?
But it's full of water.
It's
agriculture.
About, I think 17 or 18 million people. It actually goes up right now because of immigration in Europe is a problem. There's definitely a housing problem there as well. Yeah. It's not localized here or anywhere else. It's wet. Right, you're below sea level. Now, obviously, right now, the government's complaining like, we're going to have a shortage of drink water. No, you're in the Netherlands, right? You live below sea level. You don't have a shortage of drink water, right? It's all made up, right? But as a country, it's small. As I said, The Hague is a small city. I think 300,000 people.
Okay.
I lived in the city, actually it's like 15 kilometers away from The Hague itself, had about 100,000 people when I left. I think now it's 120,000, but it's just the Hague area, right? Here's the thing, The Hague to Amsterdam is about 30 kilometers distance.
Jesus,
Yeah.
How far is Rotterdam then?
Rotterdam, The Hague is about 20, maybe 25. It's so small. And then Utrecht, which is the city of my university where I studied, that was about 50 kilometers from The Hague.
Let me do some reminiscence with you. I know the Netherlands are known for the two things. It's a lot of windmills, which I can't understand why so many windmills.
Because to pump up the water. So several hundred years ago, they actually figured out like, hey, if you get a windmill, you can make grain. That's great. But you can also put a kind of a pumping mechanism so that pumps the water up.
That's why, actually.
Yeah.
Because I try to understand like myself, the windmill back where I know in Croatia, we using, we don't have many, but it's what we have. It's usually, as I said, like those, for the wheat, for the grains and everything else. But in Netherlands, it's always need some canal, some channels.
Yeah.
It's like, what's these channels of water and windmills has so common? Like I would never consider this.
So they actually pump the water and make sure that they stay above the ground level, right? Okay. So where I used to live in Zoetermeer, which is that small city in front of The Hague, we were about 2 meters something below sea level. So if I walked out of my house, then you had to walk up, and then there's a little creek. So that you have to walk up, right? So when you come from Schiphol Airport, and you drive on the A4, which is one of the motorways between Amsterdam and The Hague, there's actually a part where the ships are going over you.
Yeah. Is that why they said, like, I heard that expression, when the Germans invaded the Western Europe, the follow the French, but then go to Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, the Low Countries. That's why they refer Low Countries?
Netherlands, right, the Low Countries. So Holland is actually not the name of the country. Holland is, there are two provinces, North and South Holland.
Yeah.
That's where most people live, right? That's where we basically put everybody almost. But
but Matt is referring to putting people there to live.
Just that, go live there, right? can't do anything else with this country.
Yeah.
But it's the Netherlands itself is the name of the country, right? So you got Friesland. So what people don't realize is actually the multilingual part of the Netherlands.
Okay.
Right? Because, you speak Dutch. And no, Dutch is not German, it's Dutch. It's a separate
Dutch,
language.
yeah.
We don't really understand each other. It's a different language group. Well, it's the same Germanic language.
Isn't it interesting you say, we are not Holland, we are Netherlands.
Yeah.
We don't speak German, we speak Dutch.
Yes.
You don't say we speak Netherlands.
Well, in the Dutch language, we say, ik spreek Nederlands.
Okay.
I speak Dutch,
okay, that's
right.
Awesome.
However, we have another official language called Frisian.
Okay.
Spoken by probably 100,000 people in the whole world. Friesland is the northern part of the Netherlands, right? Very, very north. And they have their own language, own history. I mean, even the Romans were struggling with conquering the Frisians. They were tough people. Yeah.
Second question is white tulips.
White tulips. So we import tulips. They're actually Turkish flower, right?
Yeah.
So the Netherlands was an international trading country.
Yeah,
right?
They have a lot of colonies, but the people don't know, yeah.
Yeah, well, not so much colonies. We had a few, right? The Netherlands was not very good at colonizing. They were good at trading.
Okay.
Right? So if there was a colony, they were not very good at it. Which I think ultimately was not a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
What we did do is revolutionize the way that wars are funded. So the Netherlands was the first country to figure out, hey, war is a private enterprise. It's profitable. I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's actually a bad thing. But that's how they figured it out. Hey, if the king wages war, then the king's coffers will be emptied until the war is won, and then you will replenish it. So that was not profitable for a king. So the Dutch said, okay, well, we don't ask the king to fund it because that basically means raising taxes. Mm-hmm. And that means it's not popular with the populace. So what we do is we make a war just a commercial endeavor. So they created a company, the East Indies Company, Dutch East Indies Company.
See, people don't know. If you are not familiar with the European history, particularly with the Netherlands and all these countries, because what people forgetting that Danish and the Netherlands and even the Belgians, but it's when you go in the south and a part of the Spanish and Portuguese, you guys used to be run the international trading routes.
We were at war with the Spaniards, the Portuguese, the British.
When Australia was still chasing, kangaroos, when the most of Europe was still in a big turmoil, Ottoman Empire and anything else being enslaved. People don't know these things. Dutch actually,
they were
ship around the world.
They were shipping around the world. They were actually quite good at it. Now, obviously, we have a relation. The Dutch, I'm no longer Dutch, by the way. I'm fully Australian. This is the other thing I think is a good law in the Netherlands. If you take up another nationality, you lose your Dutch nationality. I don't believe in dual nationality. Right? I think you make your bed and lie in it. You choose the country where you live in. We are fully Australian. And that's it. But obviously, the heritage, born in the Netherlands, so I know a little bit about it. Now, there is a reason that the Tasman Sea is called the Tasman Sea. Abel Tasman was a Dutch sailor.
Yeah.
Right? New Zealand is called New Zealand after the province of Zeeland in the Netherlands. Van Diemen is a very Dutch name.
People didn't know these things.
The Dutch, the ancestors of mine, were everywhere.
Yeah.
Indonesia obviously was a Dutch colony. Now,
but that's a seller.
As the Dutch were not very good at colonizing, it also treated colonies not very well. Luckily, we didn't have too many of them.
Yeah.
South Africa used to be Dutch colony. I mean, Afrikaans is very closely related to the
This
Dutch
is what
language.
the people that don't know this, when you look at Boers and when you look at the Pretoria, in the South Africa itself, people always think that, that the white people over there, they belong to the English or they belong to somebody else. It's actually
So the Boer Wars, boer in Dutch is the word for farmer. So they were actually Dutch origin farmers, right? Suriname, which is in South America, used to be a Dutch colony, right? We exchanged that with the British for New York, which used to be called New Amsterdam, right? Because the British were...
Do you know this is how important this city is? That you can't make up the history, which we don't hear in this every day. It's very important that New York was called the New Amsterdam. people they don't know that the people, the Dutch, actually occupied the South Africa. Then the English wanted actually everything from there, because they discovered that there's a lot of diamonds there, there's a lot of gold. Let's go slaughter the Dutch people there and the Boers.
Obviously, there was this idea in Make the World Britain, right? That was
Didn't
a
work
policy,
very well for
right?
them. Yeah.
It didn't really work out that way. But if you look at the profitability of colonizing powers, it actually wasn't very profitable.
Okay.
That's the thing. It's like the British actually lost a lot of money by
Yes.
being in Africa, right? That's why they exited. Now you see France exiting finally,
Yes.
right? It's like there's nothing to do there. The age of colonization is
over.
well and
Yeah.
over. I do think from a origin perspective, it
Yes.
actually matters less. The culture obviously matters, but ultimately we're all one. Right?
Yes.
We're all stuck here on this planet, floating around in space,
Yes,
and there's a whole ocean of nothing around us, right? So we have to make do. And no baby is born, I'm this, and therefore I'm against. No, they're babies. Right?
Okay, so
Kids tend
my question is for you. Like, you're running now your own
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
You're fully pledged Australian. How does your heritage, your education, your upbringing influencing you to sail away from the shores of the Netherlands? Literally sail. Let's call it, but we go by plane right now.
Yeah.
But people don't understand. I'm admiring everybody who has the courage to leave known and trade for unknown. Doesn't matter how many,
Yeah.
what is being promised to you, like in terms like, okay, Matt, you just work for us, you're going to be CEO. It's still unknown. It's a new country, new culture. So tell us, everybody can understand, how much influence had on you that heritage of Dutch people, education, upbringing, that you ventured, take a courage, what most of people, they don't even have, they hold the mummies undies. That's the truth. Do you leave Netherlands?
So we actually have to go a little bit further back.
Please, by all means.
So when I was very young, my father decided that he didn't want to use computers at work.
Okay.
So he quit his job. He worked in insurance. He was doing some insurance work. I have no idea what, because I was like 3 years old. Right?
I know my dad was doing
don't
something.
want to do this.
Yes.
And he is a self-taught painter. He makes fine arts paintings, and so it's always going a little bit against the grain, right? It's like doing your own thing. So I grew up when he was doing his fine arts painting, and he taught people how to paint as well. So he had a lot of students, and in the late 70s, he had an opportunity because he was discovered by an American gallery owner. They said, "Hey, we want to Jerry." His name was Gerard, which is, I think no one can pronounce that. It's Gerard in English. But so they go, "Hey, Jerry, you need to come to the United States of America and
I try to
do an exhibition."
I try to be like American accent.
That's
Okay.
how it goes. Right?
Hello.
You need to have an exhibition here in. I can't do the Chicago accent, but here in Chicago, right?
Yes.
And there was a professor of arts in the Chicago University who wrote all kinds of praising articles about that particular style of painting. And so he had a 2-year exhibition over there. So when I was a young age, we spent like almost 2 months in the United States of America. And I started, I was 6.
Yeah.
You speak English, right? It's like, you speak English. It's like you learn how to speak English at a very young age because no one speaks Dutch. It's really surprising, right? If you leave the Netherlands, no one in the world speaks a word of Dutch except the Dutch. And the Flemish. And that's about it, right?
Yeah.
So I experienced there, like, wow, everything is so big. I just told you how small the Netherlands is, how cramped it is. I mean, we had a house in the city center, right? It's like 2 stories. So ground floor, story 1, story 2.
Yeah.
But it was like 7 meters wide.
In the backyard
The backyard was like
Belgium as well.
7 by 10. 7 by 10. And you're surrounded by neighbors. Everything is townhouses over there. You live in a town. Wow, you must be doing well. Like,
really?
It's big and very small. Like not like houses here.
Yeah.
You don't have a garage in your. No, you park your car in front of your house. Right? There is no space.
Yes.
So going there to the US and I go like, wow, they have a driveway to their house, and that's like 500 meters because it's in a rural area. And then you look at that house like, oh my God, how many people live here? Oh yeah, it's us 4. Like, okay, right? So as a kid, you start understanding like, how big things actually can be. We went to go to do shopping. It's like 40 minutes drive. That's like, we don't even walk 40 minutes to a shop, right? Like I walked out of my door and I was there in like 5 minutes, and then we walked back. You didn't even need to take your car anywhere. So that's when the seeds were planted. Like I don't know. I just feel small here. Then I did so in a couple of decades further, I was in university, had an opportunity to do a internship in Slovakia. Now that was in 1993. So that was just
Czechoslovakia or Slovakia?
It was just Slovakia.
Just Slovakia. I think that was the year when they become like.
So they separated in January.
Yes.
And I was there in June, May and June, right? So 2 months. And it's very interesting people, because if you're in Slovakia, it's so fantastic here, right? It's great and all this stuff. And then you go like, oh, you should see Prague. Prague is fantastic. You really have to go to Prague. So we went to Prague. Yes, but Bratislava is better, right? So very national. I go to Bratislava. Yes, there's one nice street still left. The rest is all the communist-style buildings. You know, you can build it with Lego, but as long as the bricks are grey, right? It's just all square.
Czechoslovakia was the part of Austrian-Hungarian Empire, and they have that secession type of building, but then the Russian comes and like, this is not nice.
It's just all like, and the exchange student that I was coupled with, because he would come back to the Netherlands, his dad was an inventor for the communist regime.
Yes.
And he was quite bitter actually, because he said, I actually invented like the digital tuner. Remember the old tuners? You turn the knob and then the little needle would go.
On the radio,
So he had a digital one. You see the numbers, right?
Really?
And they actually told him, no, we're not going to do it because it's too Western, right? He was kind of bitter about communism, and I go like, I can understand that, because that holds you back, right? Also, when I was doing the internship, I needed to copy my report. So I created a report for that company. It was Slonaft, which is the Slovakian oil company. Really nice people, by the way. And I said, I need to make copies. He said, okay. So there's a bit of a process here. He said, here's a paper, right? And it's got all squares on it. He said, you need to get stamps to get approval for the copy. I said, all I want is a copy of the report so I can give it to you, right? Because we're talking early 90s. He said, yes. So you need to go over there. That person puts a stamp. The next person checks if the stamp is there. And there's a whole process. You need to get 7. I said, my God. Just for the copy. He said, don't ask. It was illegal to be unemployed. This is how people had a job. He said, it doesn't mean that it's actually useful, but they had a job.
Had a job, yes.
And that's how that went. So, but anyway, in Slovakia, so we went to Prague, and everything in Bratislava is better. Okay, now, if you're in Bratislava, you're close to Hungary.
That's correct, yes.
Now, I love Hungary. I've been there a couple of times. It's beautiful, right? So I was there already, so I said, I'd like to go back to Hungary. So we took a very old Skoda. If you looked to the bottom where your feet were in the car, you could see actually the ground underneath there. There was holes in it. The brakes didn't work, so you had to use the handbrake.
It was just after
the mirror would fall down. It's a very old Skoda, right? Very old. Not. It was way before Volkswagen came in.
Engine was at the back.
Actually, that one was, I think, in the front.
Oh, okay. That must be new ones then. Okay. Oh.
It was that model that's kind of like like
square ones.
Obviously, everything is square.
Okay. Yeah. Because
right, but I think the engine was in. I don't remember. I think the engine was in the front. I had no. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it was in the front. It was like a sedan model.
Yeah. Then I talk about a little bit older Skoda.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
And it was the most popular model at that time.
I know this now. Yes.
It's like a Volvo, but then the boot was a little bit slanting down. But the Volvo would be straight. This one was slanting down. They're straight. Right? But everything, you look at it like, I think I'm going to die.
Welcome to Hungary. I'm going to die.
I'll tell you how it ended. We didn't die.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm glad because you're here with us today.
Me too. Yeah. But we're in Budapest. And then all of a sudden, everything in Prague is better. And so you're kind of selective here, right? Like if you're in Prague, everything in Bratislava is better. But if you're in Budapest, everything in Prague is better. Right? It's a very national territory. Yes. And I think it has to do with them losing that national
autonomy.
Stuff
that's correct.
During the Soviet occupation, basically, right? And that's where you can't just erase centuries and centuries of history
That's correct, yes.
and identity and go like, oh, you know what, it doesn't matter. Of course it matters. Your heritage always matters. You bring it with you wherever you go. You hope to bring the good parts with you. Now, that's where you go, for instance, in the United States, where a lot of people went there from Europe,
Yes.
The colonies, because they were persecuted in Europe, right, for religious reasons or whatever, because it was very oppressive. What happened is these people actually were industrious.
Yes.
Like, we want to make something out of our life. You saw the same happening in Malaysia,
Yes.
right? The Chinese Malaysians, they were actually a lot more industrious than the local population and became successful. That obviously became a problem, and that's eventually Singapore came out of that,
Yes.
right? So ultimately, I do believe that we're all on this earth, floating around in space. We're all human. We're all one, right? I don't care about your heritage. I don't care about your color. I don't care about your creed.
Yeah.
We all share this earth, but we do need to make sure that we make things a little bit better for everyone around us. Now, being industrious is one part of it, right? So my career after Slovakia, I worked for some companies in the Netherlands, did some sales, actually became reasonably successful at that.
You become itchy to travel, right? That's
But
what
I just couldn't stay in the Netherlands. Things are too small.
so small, yeah.
Then I had an opportunity to go to Saudi Arabia.
That's another extreme. From continental Europe to the sand and heat,
To the desert.
plus Muslim country, which is new. The Saudi Arabia
Everything
is
was
known that
different. Now,
yeah.
this was mid-90s, so I arrived there in 1996. King Fahd was the king over there. And the whole application process, right? I had to certify I was not of Jewish descent.
Okay.
I got like, okay, well, whatever, right? It's their country.
Yeah.
But, I thought it was odd.
Yes.
Obviously, the country is dry. Funny enough, I've never met so many people with alcohol problems as in a dry country. Right? You forbid something and it gets worse. It's the biggest beach in the world because you got the Persian Gulf on this side.
Yes.
You can walk 1,400 kilometers on the beach and then you have the Red Sea.
Yes.
Because there is literally nothing.
Nothing.
Right? Riyadh is in the middle of nowhere, I was in Dhahran, which is the eastern province.
Yeah.
We were a little bit more free. In Riyadh was more strict.
Yeah, because it's the capital city.
Capital city,
yeah.
close to Mecca, Medina as well.
Yeah.
And in Jeddah, I've been there a couple of times. I didn't like Jeddah. I never got used to Jeddah.
It's a very religious place, Jeddah, I think it is.
Well, it's Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
so you kind of, And between 96 and 99, I was there. So I met my current wife there,
Yeah.
right, where it's illegal to date. So obviously that happened as well. Even the McDonald's. At that time, I think now it's changed, right? Someone actually said, I'm going to vacation in Saudi Arabia. Like, what, they have tourist visas now? Yeah, they have tourist visas and all that stuff. Like, okay, something
they try
changed.
to be a little bit softer now.
They
like,
have to.
Yeah,
They have to, right?
Because
But at that time, when you went to the McDonald's, you had two entrances. One was for the bachelor men, and the other one was for the families. Because you can't, as a bachelor man, you can't see a woman eat. That's just unheard of. So you have separate things. And the woman could only go out with her husband, her father, or her brother. That's it. Right? It is
no boyfriend.
Are you kidding me? That's punishable by
how
jail.
do you, I mean, like, okay, that's interesting because if you don't date somebody, how are you going to marry somebody? I mean, that's... Mom and daddy decide.
Obviously things happen. So there was the Corniche, which is a road next to the ocean. There was a McDonald's there, and the women would stand there on the top of the McDonald's, right? So there's there's two floors, right? And the top floor was for the family section.
Yeah.
And the women would stand there, and they were holding up their phone numbers on signs, and then the men would drive by right and calling them. and
that must be interesting to see.
You see the weirdest things happening. So there was also the scheme that men would buy a phone. Now, mobile phones in 1996, right? Every country in the world, they were subsidized.
Yeah.
Not Saudi Arabia. They were like $2,000.
Jeez.
And then you needed to buy a SIM, which is another $1,000. And then you needed to buy the subscription.
Which is another $1,000.
It was expensive because we actually don't want you to use them, right? So they would buy two phones. And if they saw a taxi with a woman in it, and you don't know what she looks like because they're all you see the eyes, right? You're like, oh, that's a reasonable shape. So opens the window, the woman opens the window, he throws in the phone, and then can call with her.
My God.
It's it was just, the weirdest things are happening. People are quite creative in these things, right? It's like, yes,
I think the human society itself, it's a very creative way. They need something to happen.
things will happen.
They're always going to find a way.
Things will happen. Now, if you were taking a flight out of Saudi Arabia, so you go into the airplane and they're all wearing their national dress and they're all very proper. The moment the plane goes to international waters, they all, one by one, go into the bathroom and change into tracksuit. And that's when the drinking starts.
So it's a hypocrisy, right? Basically.
Of course.
Of course it is.
Of course.
So you exited Saudi Arabia. Our next stop was?
So I lived for a while in Bahrain,
Yeah.
which is a very small island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. I actually took one
Very
time
rich
a
island,
flight
yeah.
from Tehran to Bahrain because that was quicker than driving there. And the driving is only 30 kilometers, right? It's not that far. This is a big bridge. But you have to go through 7 toll custom gates when you're on the bridge.
Man.
7. And they check under your car, especially when you come back into Saudi. Are you bringing back pork? Are you bringing back alcohol? Are you bringing back any of the prohibited stuff?
Yeah.
Right? So flying was easier.
One check, that's
you
it.
could see Bahrain from the
airport. It's like, okay,
not just from the airport, right? It's not that far. But basically, they had to circle because you need to go to a certain elevation
That's
in
correct,
order
yeah.
to actually start the
Altitude,
landing.
That's correct, yes, that's correct. Yes.
It's too close. So they have to go around and get in there. So I did that once. The rest of we did actually with the car. And yeah, you spend like 7 hours on the bridge. I remember one time we were there and our cars were painted in the colors of the company we worked for. So we had Toyota Camrys and normally they're all white and we had this big yellow backside of it, right? So front was white and then it's this diagonal yellow. And then passes, all of a sudden cars were moved aside.
Yes.
Right? And this big BMW comes in and we go like, holy crap, that's Ibrahim. That's our sponsor.
Oh, okay.
So he said, park your car over there. You come with me, yeah? So he was just raced through everywhere because our sponsor, his sister, I believe, was married into the royal family.
Ah, okay.
His father used to be the governor of Eastern Province. Yeah, wonderful guy, by the way.
Yes,
His wife was Canadian. I learned a lot over there. I was a 24-year-old snot-nosed kid that came into Saudi Arabia doing a job of someone that normally would have at least 10, 15, 20 years experience. But those people didn't want to come there. So it's a huge opportunity. I was still a complete idiot when I arrived there. And probably when I left, still a complete idiot, but just a little bit less. I learned a lot. I didn't realize how much I learned over there after I left.
Yes.
Right? It's like, typically that happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that I left. I didn't want to stay there. Actually, one of the triggers was, I live in a compound, and next to the compound was a small supermarket.
Okay.
And I would go in there and get my breakfast. So I walked there, and all of a sudden there's a police officer there, right? And you know, in Saudi Arabia, the police officers, they wear army uniforms, right?
Yeah, that's good. Yes,
They all look like Saddam Hussein.
Yes, that's
right. It's like they got a moustache, they got this little green beret, and all that stuff, and they look quite intimidating, except that they're like 1.75 m. So it's towering over him. But hey, he got a gun.
He has a gun, man. He has a gun. You know, you don't. Hey.
So I walk in there. He said, "You cannot enter." I said, "Okay, what's the problem?" He said, "Terrorist." I go, "Okay." I live next door here. Is there a problem? Should I move? He said, no. He said, no problem. But if you no come here, then no terrorists come here. Mafi muskela, no problem. I said, okay. I can't really fault you for that logic.
Yeah, that's okay.
It makes sense. I mean, your country. I just don't think I want to stay here.
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously we were a target.
Yeah.
And just before I arrived, that was when the bombing of the compound was where all the nurses were staying that were serving the U.S. Army. So it was an interesting time over there. And as I said, I learned a lot because you do things that you just have to make it up as you go along. You hope not to make a catastrophic mistake.
Yes.
But, 24, your brain is not wired that way.
Exactly. But look at what experience do you have. It's invaluable because it's you can't put a price tag on this. It's so being a country like a Saudi Arabia, it's I don't know, and I'll never like to go there because of the laws and legislation.
It's different now. Actually,
it looks different, but it's the same. They do the soft things, like even in Emirates, where they Dubai, it's quite. open the country, right? You know, I mean, everything else. You still, when you walk inside, it's like you know that this is not a place where you want.
Well, you
to
had the Mutawa, right, which is the religious police.
Yes.
And typically, in order to become a Mutawa, you go to Mutawa school.
Yeah.
That's in Medina. And a lot of them were kind of criminals.
Yeah.
You can choose. You want to go to jail? It's usually not a very good place to be in Saudi Arabia. Or you want to go to the Mutawa school. So they're kind of like people with authority and power. And even the police would not contravene the Mutawa, right? And you could recognize they got long beards and short pants. Somehow, the longer your beard, the shorter your pants are. I never really got it, but that was a symbol like, oh, he must be very, very religious. Good man, right?
Yeah.
They were, in Riyadh, one of my colleagues, they raided the building during prayer time, Salah, right? In the 5 times a day, they announce that you have to pray.
Yeah.
And they go into the building, the office. The office needs to be closed, so it was nicely closed. And they went in there, and they say, Ikama, which is they take away your passport if you live there, and they give your Saudi identity paper. Right? It tells you who your sponsor is, where your sponsor lives, and if you're further than 50 kilometers away from your sponsor, you need to have a travel letter signed by your sponsor, stamped by the Chamber of Commerce. That's how that was. Hey, you're visiting their country.
Yeah.
Right? So they went in there, and then the red ikama, that I had one, because you're not a Muslim.
Yeah.
Right? So basically, we don't really care if you go to hell. But if you got a green ikama, then you're a Muslim. And if you have a green ikama, and the mutawa catches you not praying, you go to jail.
Look, I'm glad you come back alive. So what was the next step after Saudi Arabia?
I went to Bahrain for a while. That didn't really work out. So some visa problems. Yeah. Lost a lot of money there. Which you made a lot of money in Saudi. You lost a lot of money in Bahrain.
Of course,
it's kind of the story of my life. We were not rich when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was okay. Dad sold another painting. Sometimes it was not so okay. But great opportunities. Learned a lot, and actually had a very good childhood. I had no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah.
Then moving to Slovakia for a couple of months, you get to see how poverty really is in big cities that just came out of communism. But you also see the enterprising thing. So that prepared me actually in some way for Saudi Arabia, where you see extravagant riches by people that do not work and people that are scraping things together. And basically it's slave labor, but they come there by volition and choice, and after a few years they go back home. And they still send like 80% of their salary home. Right?
Can you imagine that? You know what I mean? Like, I saw this, let's just say in Singapore was one thing I was always shocked, because Singapore has, I think, 5 million people, citizens of Singapore, which, as you know, being citizen of Singapore, it's impossible if you're not born there, right? You know, I mean, literally, you must be born there, like two generations.
Or be very, very wealthy.
Very, very wealthy. However, it's like 4 million migrants working there on such a small space. And I said to myself, that's very interesting. But then
here's the thing. What does Singapore make?
Makes nothing, It's
little. So
very
you used
little.
to have electronics
nothing.
like Creative, right? The old Sound Blaster cards for computers. And I'm obviously a computer background. But they don't make a lot. Now, they obviously have petrol hub, right? So there's a through port. So we are linked to Singapore.
The ports, that was called
and the rest is the financial market.
That's correct, yes.
So what's going to happen with Singapore in this current climate, right? We see the end of the petrodollar. We see massive inflation. And if you think this is bad, just wait a couple of months. This is going to be a lot worse.
I have tendency to agree with you, but it's like, that's what's happened with the migrants. And then in Dubai, it's even worse. When I saw how many migrants actually working, and when I see them in the morning, which makes me sort of like, I was intrigued. I see them in the trucks. Like on the buses, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Like hundreds of them, they're still sleeping. Obviously, they sleep in the cramped rooms and everything else.
7 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. That is correct. That's very correct. Right. And I think myself...
Now, here's the thing. When I was there in Saudi Arabia, the oil price was dropping.
Ah, okay.
That's a problem.
Yeah, well,
right? If the oil price is high, you can maintain your lifestyle.
Yes.
So there was a rule in, for instance, Jubail, right? The Sabi group, and a lot of companies there in Jubail. And Saudis obviously had the management positions. Now they had a rule that if you don't show up for 14 days in a row, we consider you AWOL. You resigned. You're gone. You're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
So they showed up every 13th day, had some coffee, had some talk, and then collected their 10, 20,000 US dollars tax free.
God, let's go do this.
That was-
Let's go. That's a good job. That's a
That was a
good.
good job. The work was actually done by others. So people from third world countries, they were willing to work for free and do really shitty jobs. Even though they were doctors or whatever they were in their home country, they would make more money here than they would ever do at home. So they would come here and then send money to their family. They still send 80% home because you give them their housing, you give them their food, right? So there's no food allowance. You just get the food. It's not great living, right? It's really bad. But they came here because, hey, I make 10, 20 times more than I can make at home.
Yes.
So they would come. So you can say it's slave labor. It's not fair. But they look at, from a Saudi perspective, it's like, hey, you're willing to come here and I'm paying you 20 times more than you get at home. It's up to you, right? You don't have to.
You don't have to. Exactly. You have to.
Now, there are some agencies that are less valued, right, on human life, and they actually, cheat and all that stuff. So I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but from a perspective of the Saudis, it's like, we give you an opportunity. You send money home. It's good for your family. It's good for us. Everybody happy, right? Then you got the managers coming in from Western countries, because we had the education and all that stuff. Are we better at it? Probably not, because I met really smart people. My boss, by the way, in Saudi was one of the smartest people I've ever worked with. And he had virtually no education because he was a school dropout. And his dad said, you go in Saudi. I got a friend of mine. He runs a garbage collecting company. You go work and doing the garbage collecting. So you learn what work is. Now that changed him because he started the company and then all of a sudden he had like 200, 300 people working for him, right? You don't do that when you're stupid. That guy was not stupid. Surely he did not do all the education, but they go like education is overrated in most cases, right? So
True.
So you learn like, wow, that guy is sharp, right? Very sharp. Obviously, me being an idiot at 24, he's sharp, but I can do better. Yeah, I can do that too because I'm educated. You come back and you go like, yeah, no, actually no. You've built a different level of respect, right, when you get older. The managers tend to come from Western countries. Now, this company, obviously, Dutch general manager, so he had a lot of Dutch people around him, right? And the beauty with the Dutch is we are used to hard work. The Dutch work hard. We don't do extravagant lunches like in France. Don't do anything after 2 p.m. because people come back from lunch and they have their wine and all that stuff.
No,
right? I did projects over there.
That is very true, man. That is very, very true.
It's a different culture, right? They do work later, right? So they don't come home until 7. That said, they have 35-hour work weeks, and if you work more than that, you have to pay like triple over. There's like really, strong labor laws in France. The Dutch didn't have that. We were having our sandwiches at our desk when we were working. That was our lunch, right? It's just keep do your stuff. Yeah. Don't complain, just do your stuff. That's how I grew up. So the Dutch are used to actually getting things done. At least were. I'm not sure if that's still happening because obviously culture shifts. So I liked working like that because the productivity was high.
Yes.
Productivity was very high. So when I we went back from Bahrain to the Netherlands. My wife, we got married in the Philippines. My wife came over to the Netherlands. Within 3 months, she spoke Dutch. Not great, but enough to actually get a job as a nurse, right? So she was working elderly care, but she couldn't work at her level because of the language. If you make a mistake, you hear the doctor wrong and people die. Not good, right? Yeah. So that was all good, right? But we go like, can't really work at our level. So we want to move to an English-speaking country. So I'm going, okay, where do we want to live? Canada is too cold.
Far too cold.
Right?
Cold.
Don't like it. US, just the Iraq war just started. All that stuff like crazy. I don't want to live there, right? I just don't want to live there. I don't see that going well. UK, same weather as the Netherlands. Also the same tax regime. So I don't want to live in the UK. There's no benefit whatsoever other than that they speak English. Australia, they got scary animals. I don't want to live in Australia. Right? Those snakes and spiders.
Like 8 most deadliest creatures live in Australia. That is
9, if you count the Aussie bogan with a V8 engine ute.
I gotta remember this. Okay, yeah.
Is I never really got the Holden and Ford culture where you have a ute which is only air in the back, rear wheel drive, and a big, 400 kilowatt engine in the front.
Yes.
And you give him to like a 25-year-old. It's like,
that's deadly.
It's like, I don't see that go well. But anyway, so we ended up in New Zealand instead. Now, I found out like, wow, I thought we were going to an English-speaking country because the Kiwi vowel rotation is something you have to get used to, right? So every word is said differently.
Absolutely. Look,
it's a beautiful country, by the way. It's a shame what happened to it in the last couple of years. Yeah. So it's all about purpose, right? This is your objective that you need to achieve. So in my business now, and I have the opportunity, right? And Microsoft has been, all the criticism of a big corporate, and they're not different than any corporate. HP was the same. It's like you lose the purpose on why you're there.
Yes.
Because your purpose changes from serving your customer to making your manager look good.
That's interesting.
So as soon as there's a hierarchy that's large enough,
yes,
right, people get further and further removed from a client, then your job is make sure your manager keeps looking good. That's how your manager gets promoted. And if you're the reason that they get promoted because you make them look good, you go along with them in the slipstream.
Okay.
And if your manager goes like, hey, I'm going to work for another company, you get promoted either upwards or they take you with them for more money.
Okay.
That's usually how you can look at the corporate structures, right? And great managers. And there was one sales manager at Microsoft. He became the vice president for sales of business solutions in Adrian. He was tough. He was really tough. His team loved him. And I was invited to an offsite with him because I was the services guy, right? It's like, you guys stop our sales. Because we're just like, because we have to implement this shit. Right? But he was so good for his people. It's like unbelievable. They loved him. And because he would go to bat for them, right? Not for anyone else in the company, but for them. Because they make him look good. And he was also quite competent, right? He was not a nincompoop. He was actually very, very competent. Not very well loved, but very competent. Loved by his people, but not by his peers. Because this is the other thing. You know this in any environment where you have a lot of people involved. If you get too far ahead of the pack, the peers, they tend to drag you down.
That is correct, that is
right?
correct.
You see it in factory work. If you're more productive than your coworkers, coworkers slow down. You're raising the bar for all of us.
That is very correct.
Because it's much easier for productive people to do less than it is for unproductive people to lift their game. Right? And now it comes back to purpose. What are you measuring in your company? In Microsoft, we measured micro transactions. Like, what's your utilization? Utilization is the number of hours you bill to a client. That's your metric. And I always go like, that's actually for our team not the best metric. Because we were a center of excellence. We need to increase the size of the projects. Yeah. Right? It's like by being there, customers will be more comfortable signing a bigger project. So we increase the size of the pie. If we then start going microtransactions, now you need to pay us this, pay us that, we get less involved because that's the budget cuts. And therefore the projects, we signed this big project. Oh yeah, let's cut out these things over here. There was a reason why it was there. Right, because it's complex technology, and we had that was the idea, close relationship with the product team, right? But because we were always cut out, we came back in when things already turned into custard. And that's when you start also losing the internal stuff. Like, if these guys are involved, it's a headache project, right? Okay. So the purpose for our team changed from we want to increase the size of the project by increasing confidence and competence, and therefore making the whole market better and doing new things, to I need to do so many hours. That's what I'm chasing. I'm chasing the number of hours I bill. Because we are now a services organization instead of a product organization that invests in making their services bigger, right? So in 2017, I thought like, you know what? I've seen this all. I've seen the cycle. I've now been here for almost 11 years, 10 and a half years. I've seen it go from regional to local to time zone back to regional, and I see the next thing is we're going local again, right? Yeah. That's just how things tend to swap in big corporates. And also if something doesn't work, change the name. That's another trick. right? That was a complete failure. Yeah, but it's now named differently. Oh, okay.
Sounds better.
And I thought, I've seen it. I had my opportunities here. I don't think I go any further because I'm way too Dutch, right? We're very egalitarian, and we say what we think. I always say jokingly, everyone is entitled to my opinion.
Yes.
I don't discriminate. Doesn't mean I'm right. I'd like you to tell me where I'm wrong, so I learn something. Yes. But if I keep my mouth shut and agree with everything that you say, neither of us gets any further.
Yes.
Right? So that's my attitude. Now, Microsoft is, I had sometimes the feeling, so I had a feedback from my manager. He said, Matt, it's okay to call someone else's baby ugly. Just make sure that the parents aren't in the room. And that was basically what they had a scheme, and they go like, that's just never going to work. And it was really, actually, for my way of speaking, very polite about it. So I asked questions. That is the polite way of getting criticism. It's not saying, oh, that sucks. It's like asking, okay, how are we going to, I'm just curious, how are we going to do this, and this? Because if we don't, this is what I see. Now, if the person who thought of that plan or advocates the plan, because typically how plans are made in corporates, it's not the manager that has the big plans. It's not the VP. They trickle upwards, right? And if they hear it from more than one person, it must be true, and then it just goes down without actually further thinking because that's already been thought about. Most of the time it hasn't because the level isn't that high. And again, I'm not calling out just the company I worked for last time. Microsoft, you see the same in HP, you see the same everywhere. Is you assume that they've done their homework. Not everybody has. So I asked those questions, and that actually became like, oh, you're just negative. Like, well, no, I want to see this work because here's what I know is going to happen. You're going to do this, spend a lot of money on it. I know where it's going to fail because of these and these and these things, and you're not addressing them. That means it comes down to my team to absorb that failure. And I need to appoint someone in my team to take the blame, and that person is then fired. You know how hard it is to hire someone of that caliber? It's not that easy, and you can't just go like, who do I need to replace to fix this? Right? If you fundamentally haven't thought it out correctly, it's not about the idea. It's like same as in the military, right? It's the amateurs think about tactics and strategy, where the professionals, they talk logistics.
That's correct.
Right? Same here. So logistics, how are you going to work it? We'll figure that out. Now, actually, that's kind of important. That's kind of essential to what we're doing. Is how we're going to, so for instance, if you're going to do this capacity plan, that the capacity plan says, I need to hire these people. Hiring people is a bow wave, right? It's not just like, hey, I can hire them tomorrow and they'll be productive. Yeah. No, first of all, it takes months to hire the right person, sometimes longer, right? Because you're hiring people with 15, 20 years of experience.
That's right, yes.
They don't just jump ship, right? They may have a good job because you're not hiring the ones that are saying, yeah, I'm available because my career is at an end at this place and I'm not very good at what I do. No, you're hiring the best. So they are usually in a very good position. So it takes long to hire them. Then you have to bring them into the process because, it's Microsoft. The things work differently. There's actually a couple of months that actually get used to like, you're doing it this way here? Wow. Yeah, we're doing it this way here. Don't ask, right? We're working on that. So there's a bow wave for hiring. So you need to hire them at least like starting the hiring process 9 to 12 months before you actually need them. Oh, no, we can't do that because we haven't sold the project yet. Right? So it's logistics. Everything is logistics. Now, again, not singling out one particular company because every stock-listed company needs to show return on investment for everything.
Yes.
Right now, smart companies go like, okay, we're going to invest here and this is when we expect a return. I did see an email at one stage like, oh, I'm happy to invest in this, but you need to guarantee me that the return will come in 3 months, this financial year. That's not an investment. Right? That's not an investment. Sorry, that's just trading. So I left the company and I said, I'm going to do something for myself. And my boss said, Matt, you can't leave. I said, well, I don't know how they do things in China and Singapore, but in Australia, I actually can and I will. So I left. They actually did well with me when I left, right? They gave me a good bag of money as well as a thank you. And I really appreciate it. And again, I learned a lot as well as there. But I said, I want to make my own mistakes. That's the real reason I'm going to go. I don't want to make someone else's mistakes anymore because I'm this guy, like, this doesn't work. But that doesn't help me. It doesn't help the company because I don't learn from someone else's mistakes because they're not mine. I can only say, I told you so, and here's how we fix it. But your own company, I said, I'm scared. I don't know what to do, but I'm going to find out. And that's where I started in 2017, set up my own accounting system. I stumbled across Zoho Books.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I came to Zoho, because I thought I'll do something with Microsoft, right? That's what I know. I did one project in Microsoft in my new company, and I go like, well, I'm just as unhappy as I was before. So it's not the company. It's actually the market I'm in, the big projects. So I want to do small projects, but big projects tend to fail. Too many egos involved, too many people with opinions, but actually never going to use the software. So I landed with Zoho Books as my accounting system. Then Zoho One was released, which had CRM, books, and everything in that whole package. And I said, this is too good to be true. So I bought that one, and I signed up to be a partner. And here we are. I figured out like, hey, how do I build a website? What is SEO? What does it stand for? Search engine optimization. Okay, never heard of that. Yeah. Right? All these things you never heard of. You just got to figure it out because you're running your own business and make my own mistakes. And that for me was the most valuable thing because the purpose was always the same. I want to have clients that are more successful for their customers.
Can you say this again? You wanted what?
The purpose of what we do in our business, right, is we want our clients to be more successful for their customers.
I never heard such a thing, but that's one of the best things I ever possibly could imagine somebody will say who provided services to me, you know what I mean? That my provider wants me to be better for my customers. Yes. I mean, that itself is a...
You bring it a little bit further, like I want my client, of course my customer needs to be successful, but what does that mean? What does it mean that you make more money, you're more profitable? That's great, you can be very profitable and then all your clients will go away, right? So if we can make your systems in such a way that you can spend more time on your client's success, because that's why they stick with you. So I thought about this, right? Like why do clients stick with me? Well, I make them successful. So what do my clients want? They want their clients to stick with them because acquisition of a new client is 70% more expensive than retaining your existing clients. Yes. So you want to retain your existing clients. So I go, okay, so what does it mean for you to be more successful to your clients? Well, you want to be predictable. You want to know what they need. You want to be able to be flexible without being flexible. Now, that sounds odd, right? So flexible means like, hey, I can accommodate you as a client in how you work. But not flexible is like, yeah, but I don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time I do it. My systems allow me to make small changes that for a client mean everything. And for me, it's just like, yeah, sure, we'll do it, especially for you, right? So your client is comfortable dealing with you. So there's a model, it's Trici and Wiersema. I don't know if you know that model. No. It's the values model, value disciplines model. So you as a company, you need to figure out like what's my core competency for a client? What do I mean for them? And you can choose between three. So all three need to be at least on market level, right? At least on market expectation level. You have operational excellence. You got product leadership and customer intimacy. So what do they mean? Now, operational excellence. Let's take a Toyota. If you think on the best car in the world, do you think Toyota?
No.
You probably think of one of this, product leader, the Aston Martin, the Rolls Royce, all these things, right? Best car in the world. Then you got, but it's not Toyota, but they're operational excellence. So if they say, I'm going to deliver you a car that does these things, and it will be reliable, they will do that. And they do it at a certain price. So that's operational excellence. That's their key. Can they go in and make the ugliest car in the world or the slowest car in the world? No. So the other things still need to be on market expectation, right?
Yes.
So then you have, for instance, let's take a Maybach. Don't think they exist anymore. That's the Mercedes ultra-luxury brand. I think that's now been incorporated into the Mercedes brand again. It was kind of a failure. But when you ordered a Maybach, right, it was kind of like a very big Mercedes S-Class Plus, right, with the little stars in the roof and all these things. $1 million car. You get a tour of the factory. You can see your Maybach being produced. You can, you get updates. This is where it is. Everything personalized. So they're kind of like, we're in the customer intimacy.
Yes.
Is it the best car I can buy? May break down for a while, right? It's okay. We'll probably fix it, but we are so close, you don't notice that it breaks down. Rolls-Royce, same thing. Rolls-Royce don't break down. Yeah, because if they do break down, they fly a helicopter over and get you another one, right? It's like, they don't break down. They do. No, they don't. We make the evidence go away. You don't notice it, right? So it's there in the customer intimacy. And they have the product leaders. Who will be a product leader? I think Tesla will be a product leader in the electric cars, right? They're the first, they're the biggest range, the biggest this, biggest that. Is it the highest quality car? No, they are kind of known not to react always in the same way as they do. If you look at how they're actually put together, one end of the hood you can put your finger in between, and the other end of not even a dime, right? So they're not high quality put together. But they are kind of the product leader. You're going like, hey, this is so far advanced of what everyone else is doing. So those are the three things that you can choose from where you want to excel. The mistake that people make is, I want to excel at everything. That means you excel at nothing. So you pick one saying, I want to be known for this. This is how I'm going to differentiate from my competitor. So if all your competitors are in customer intimacy, like, oh, you're so lovely, I'll take you to a lunch and blah, 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 and you're doing fraud investigation, you're like, yeah, we don't take you to lunch all the time, but we offer you a competitive price because those lunches you pay for in your price, but we give you an outcome at a certain date, at a certain time, and it's very predictable, and it's high quality work. That's a differentiation between you and someone else then. Or you can go the other way around. Like, yeah, they're all giving you the right outcomes and all this stuff, but we actually know when to investigate before you do, before you call us. That's customer intimacy, right? So you choose which of the three elements you're going to be known for. And then you have a second, which is like, hey, yeah, but we're actually above market for how we execute. You're not known for it, but we're still above market. And then the other one has to be at least on market. So I look at our clients. Now, because we set up is a managed service, this is another thing that we do different, right? So our differentiation is we're actually customer intimacy. And the second bit is operational excellence. So we don't really care much about product leadership. We're not the first one with AI. We have AI, by the way, but it's just like, yeah, just hold on, right? You don't want to be MySpace when Facebook is coming along, right? So we look at the client, and we say, okay, this is what you need to do, right? So what do you want to achieve? So we ask them a very simple question. There's an actor, an action, and an achievement, a AAA user story. That's all I need to know. You know, you understand your business and all the stuff, so we get closer. But if you want to do something, someone is going to do it. Who is that someone, do you think? Okay, this. Okay, now describe to me what you want to have done. That's the action. That. Most importantly, what's the outcome? So when it's done, what's the outcome? When is that successful for you if we implement this? And that outcome, that becomes our North Star when we deliver something. We can change the actor and the achievement. So for instance, I want a system that I can easily type in an email into the CRM leads because someone dropped a message on our website, and then I just easily add it into the leads and CRM so someone can follow it up. Okay. So I'm going to change that action and actor. I'm going to keep the outcome. You get a lead that you need to follow up in your CRM. I said, why don't the customer already fills out the details, right? Yes. So why do you want an action that you do it again? Because we can't integrate it. What if we do? So customer fills out something in your website, goes straight in your CRM system. You get an email and a task assigned to follow up. Can you do that? Yes, we can. Right? So we changed the actor and the action, but we kept the achievement. That allowed our customers to be a lot more efficient. Now, this was a simple example, but there are many examples out there. Then we have, some insights into like how do you manage your stuff, right? So, for instance, if I talk to a client like, sales is going okay, but we're gonna have a sales meeting again, next month because I think we're gonna run behind on numbers. I said, so how often do you have your sales meetings? He says, actually, when we think we're gonna run behind the numbers. I said, okay. So what if I give you a report with deals that are closing this month, next month, and after that, right? And you're going to have a sales meeting every week. You say, no, we don't have time for it because they take hours. I said, no. You're going to do it differently. You're going to have that report here, and you're going to have your salespeople tell you which deals do you think are going to slip, which ones are at risk, and which one do you commit. That's it. You don't have to ask why or whatever. Every deal that's going to slip, okay, what can you bring in forward from next month? So you're going to slip this? Okay, that's $100,000. So which $100,000 of next month or the month after can you bring forward? Because you don't have to chase new deals to close within a very short time. You bring forward things that are closing the next month. And then the next month you can again find other deals. And he started doing that. He said 2 things. The sales meetings are very, very short. He said, and after a month, now we do it for 3 months, our numbers have never been higher. So I'm the systems guy. We give the reports, but we also give you the kind of the CIO service as part of the whole thing. Like, this is how you can use this data to be more effective. Now, selling more means doing more for your client. So that meets our purpose. It's like, be more successful for your clients. Because you can't be successful for your client if they don't buy from you. So that's the joy of the business that we're now in.
And what's the Aurelian Group? What services you guys offer?
Okay. So as I said, we're kind of unique, right? So normally when you buy software for your business, you go like, oh, I want to do this, this, and this. And then you hire a partner that makes that happen. So we take that whole on the side of saying, okay, we give you a managed services experience. We are not only giving you the software on that price, but we also provide you the implementation, the support, the maintenance, enhancement. You have your IT department and kind of like a CIO service all rolled up into one price. So it's kind of like the Netflix model, right? Yeah. Rainy weekend, I'm going to watch 10 movies today on Saturday. Netflix doesn't charge you more. They will charge you more if you want to watch on various devices at the same time. So we scale it based on the size of your organization. So our deal size is usually between 7 as a minimum till like 25, 26. If you have more than 50 employees, we go like, yeah, our service will scale, but I don't think I want to do business with you from a cultural perspective. So I used to have a chat with the managing director, like, why do we fit? Because I do not want to do business with people that have opinions about how things are done, but are not doing it themselves. And if a company gets a certain size, you get someone that is like, I'm the process expert. I am the process manager. Okay, so what do you do? I do the processes. So what do you do? I do the processes. Okay, so you're not going to use the system. No, but I'm going to have an opinion about it. So they keep you busy without actually involving the team in there. So I was in an organization that we were doing a warehouse management system.
Yes.
So we're doing the whole ERP, and then we brought in another warehouse management system. And I was speaking with the whole group there, and we did the rounds. And I said, excuse me, who of you actually works in the warehouse here? No, we don't. We're the experts. I said, so you used to work in the warehouse? No. We're experts on warehouse management. I said, so I'm here with the group of the subject matter experts, and none of you actually do the job. How is that going to work? Now people go like, warehouse people, well, they never made a career, they don't know anything, they're not educated. You'd be amazed how much they know to the nth degree on how to make a warehouse, optimized. They're so super knowledgeable. So that's why in our business we go like, okay, if you're more than 50 employees, I'll have a chat with the owner, director, I don't care who, right, the person in charge, on why we're a cultural fit. Because I don't want to be talking to a proxy that has an idea but actually doesn't do the work, because they don't have that knowledge on how really the company ticks. Because there's a way that the company works that everybody thinks it works, and then there's a way that it actually works. Now, if you implement a system, you need to know how it actually works and how to actually take away those bottlenecks instead of going like, oh, but this is utopia, this is the new idea, this is how your new process is going to run. In your business as well, if you know how to do an investigation, those people you want on the team to say, how do we make that more efficient? How can we implement tools to make your work more efficient? You don't want someone coming in there, well, I've never done an investigation, but
I know how to do it. Yeah.
But I'll know how to make it better. Like, okay, sure. That's just not the market I want to be in. I can make a lot of money in that market. You can make a lot of money in that market, but it makes you so unhappy.
I'm happy. So how the people can find you, Matt?
All right. So aureliangroup.com, aurelian-group.com, aureliangroup.com.au. As all the websites, they all link into the same thing. You can find me on LinkedIn. I don't do much on LinkedIn, so Matt Koopmans, Aurelian Group in Sydney. I'm not a social media user, so I'm not on Facebook or any of that stuff.
Don't worry, so I'm going to find you guys. I'm going to help you.
But if you find Matt Koopmans, Zoho, or Zoho Partner in Sydney, we are there. If you search for Aurelian Group, we are there. And details will be underneath the video, I would suppose, as well.
Yeah, of course it will, yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, that's my word. I'm going to just... Ladies and gentlemen, I was thinking something I'm going to call this interview because, after all, this is your interview. But I think today, actually, I think you give the valuable lessons for everybody, failure of the management and the red tapes, actually. That's what makes you very successful. Because I was thinking myself, while you're talking about some things happening to you in the previous employment, from regional to the local and all these things, and there's a more compliance being put because the people don't comply. Actually, I said to myself, that's how the red tape actually works. People who don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Matt Koopman, Managing Director of Aurelian Group. I'm going to put the comment section below the contact details, how you can contact Aurelian Group. And thank you for watching. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.